Josiah here at EasyCaters.com, and I had a question come in last night asking if I could help program or tell them how to program a scan to find a Bollinger Band squeeze. And what they were referencing specifically is this video where a gentleman from Investing Lab programmed a Bollinger Band squeeze screener for a different platform. I think it's called Streak or something. Anyway, so they were wanting to replicate this type of thing in Thinkorswim, and so I thought rather than just doing a long email explaining how to do it or sending them the code and everything, I would just go ahead and program it for the benefit of everybody, so that if anybody else out there in YouTube wants to replicate it, they can do that as well. So I'm going to go over here into Thinkorswim, hit the scanner, and one thing I wanted to mention first is that there is a functionality for finding Bollinger Band squeezes, or basically low volatility situations, and that is the built-in free TTM squeeze indicator. And you can see here when there's a red dot here, that's indicating that the Bollinger Bands are converging. And they do this in a kind of unique way. They look for basically the Bollinger Bands to move inside of the Keltner channel indicator. So the Keltner channel is a different indicator that looks for narrow volatility versus wide volatility. And so they basically they stack the Bollinger Band and the Keltner channel on top of each other and compare the two to each other. And when the Bollinger Band shrinks relative to the Keltner channel, then that's called a squeeze. That's my understanding of it. It's something very similar to that anyway. So anyway, you can see here when the dots turn red here in the middle, then the Bollinger Bands are kind of converging into a squeeze situation. So that's one option in the scanner. If you look in here, if you add a study filter, add filter, study, and then select over here and choose license studies, TTM squeeze scan is built in right there, and you can just set it to the time frame you want and hit scan. So that's one option for you, and these are some of the options it finds today on the daily chart. Now, if you want to use just the Bollinger Bands themselves, we can do that. And what we'll do is we'll just bring up a blank study filter here and start over. And so I'm going to create a couple of variables here. Let's see here, we need to reference Bollinger Band, and we're going to set this to the upper band, and so I've basically called this BBH for Bollinger Band high, and we'll have another one for low and another one for the mid. So we'll name that low and mid, and we'll change this to lower band. And we'll change this last one to midline. And that's the default one, so they just remove it, but you can type in midline here if you like. And so those are the three lines that we're referencing here for the Bollinger Bands. And so now what in this video, what this gentleman from Investing Lab is doing is looking at the distance between the high band and the low band, and referencing that in percentage terms to the price of the stock, or basically the midline. So it's saying that the width of the Bollinger Bands cannot be more than X percent relative to the midline. So the way they do that, and so we'll create another one here, another variable here that's the width itself. And so we'll just say Bollinger Band high minus Bollinger Band low, so that will be the width of the Bollinger Bands. And then we'll say that width can't be more than X percent of the midline. This is the width in dollar terms. This will be the width in percent terms relative to the midline. So we'll say width divided by Bollinger Band mid. And if you want, you can multiply that by 100 to put it in kind of typical percentage terms instead of decimal. So this would be the width in percentage terms relative to the mid, and then we can create a plot statement, or let's just do this the right way. Let's put an input up here that says max width percent equals, and we can say maybe 1%. And so then down here, in our plot statement, this is where we actually specify what the condition is that we're looking for. We have our setup variables here, but now we're going to use those to set a condition. And so our scan condition is that the width percent must be less than or equal to the max width percent we specify. And so let's see what kind of results this gives us right now. So I've got a couple of basic criteria here. I'm looking in the universe of all stocks that have closes above $10 and a volume of 1,000 shares today. Let's add one more filter for just average daily volume to make sure these are liquid stocks. So 50 simple period moving average of the volume is greater than 1 million on the daily. And then we'll scan and see. It looks like there's no matching stocks for that. So let's loosen these criteria up a little bit here and see if there's anything else. Not looking like anything yet. Let me lax these up a little bit more. Okay, so we've got one result here. And this is probably because it's super early in the morning right now, and where not many stocks have traded anything this morning yet. Okay, so this one is saying this is a narrow band, and basically we're defining that as 1% wide relative to the midline. So let's just check these calculations real quick. The high is 1025, the low is 1017, and so that range is 0.08 divided by the midline of 1021. And that gives us a 7%, and if we multiply this by 100, you can see, so this is a less than 1%, so this is 0.78% is the width. So it is matching the criteria of being less than 1%. So this one matches our scan condition, but it doesn't really give us something that we can really use. And so this is one of those things that we're going to find out is that we can specify that a Bollinger Band has to be less than a certain width, but really we're looking for conditions that take that into account, but also some additional criteria, such as we want the Bollinger Bands to perhaps have not exceeded that 1% in the past X number of bars. So maybe over the past 5 or 10 bars, we want it to all those bars to have been in a condition where the Bollinger Bands were less than 1% apart. And so that would be another way that we could expand this and make it better, make it more useful. Another thing in this video that my friend here was referencing, my customer, you can see here that there's some price action elements going on here. We've had this move up, and then it was followed by a period of quiet consolidation where the Bollinger Bands converged and price action narrowed. And then that was followed by an expansion again, just similar to at the beginning of the chart here. We had a squeeze kind of condition, low volatility followed by high volatility, and then it followed by low volatility again, followed by high volatility. So you're going to want to maybe manually, or maybe you can come up with some novel ways of looking for a condition where we've already had some bullish momentum, then followed by a period of consolidation where this Bollinger Band condition is met, and then look to get into a breakout of that kind of condition in the direction of the original move. So this original move kind of gives you your trend criteria, telling you which direction you're looking in. And then this gives you your setup with the narrowness of the Bollinger Bands, and then you look for that to expand again. So there's a lot of different elements going on here other than just a narrow Bollinger Band. And so that's kind of what I wanted to point out. And so the squeeze takes some of that into account if you were to use this scan instead. But what we can do is improve the scan that we made and say, okay, max width percent in the past, 10 bars, we'll say. So we'll say within bars equals 10. And so now we're going to say that we only want, over the past 10 bars, we want the maximum Bollinger band width over those 10 bars to have been less than 1% for that whole time, not just on the current bar. So to do that, we can say, let's see, width percent, we'll say highest width percent within bars. So this is the highest width percent over the past 10 bars is less than the max width percent. So we'll see what that does, less than or equal to the max width percent. And so since this is only finding one right now, I'm going to really lax out these criteria here and see if we can find something more useful here. Okay, so this is saying that over the past 10 bars, the criteria have been met with these stocks. Let's see if there's any. Okay, so we've got kind of like a buyout situation going on here where this is definitely meeting the criteria, but it's not really very useful to us. Let's see, this is probably meeting those criteria as well, but not that useful. So some of these, you might have to, again, a buyout type of situation, you might have to manually go through and just kind of find another buyout there, whether or not any of these are, you'll get your results and you can manually kind of check them to see if any of these are interesting. Okay, so this one was a little more interesting because it had a period of movement up, then it narrowed gradually, and this would have been interesting a couple of days ago, but that move has already started. And so this one, so this is kind of the look that you want right here based on this video that we're referencing here. You have this move up, narrowness forming, and then it starts breaking to the upside. This one's, more gradual perhaps, but, and it might help if I switch the scaling here a little bit. No, it doesn't really help. Okay, so let's see if any of these other ones are very interesting. And okay, so we got another buyout and here, last one. So this one is another one where we have an uptrend and narrowness, but and so this one might turn into something over time, but not really doing much. It's basically just a really small stock. So it looks like here we're dealing with a situation where we've got stocks that are just always meeting these criteria because they're just not very volatile. So you might want to add a condition where the average volatility over a longer period of time is higher, but over the past 10 bars or 5 bars or whatever, the new criteria of it being kind of a low volatility situation has happened. So that would be another way of kind of adjusting these criteria to try to find something closer to what you're really looking for. All of these, these are just always low volatility stocks, and so you want to take out those and differentiate between those and ones that typically do have some volatility and are just going through a temporary period of low volatility. What we could say is, something like the highest width percent in the past 100 bars perhaps, or 252 bars, or whatever you want to do, so for a trading year, has been greater than or equal to a certain amount. And then the highest in the past 5 or 10 bars has been less than or equal to a certain amount. So we can improve it by doing that maybe. And so let's see what kind of variables to add here. We could add a within bars minimum. Let's change this to within bars squeeze. So basically we're looking for a squeeze within this number of bars, and then we'll look for within bars volatile, and we'll set this to 200. And so those two settings go together, and then we'll just say min width percent for this setting will be 2.0. I don't know what this will look like, so we'll just test some things here. Okay, so now we're looking for the old criteria, but we also want to add some additional criteria. The highest width percent within bars volatile is greater than or equal to min width percent. And then we're going to connect these two criteria with an and keyword. So basically both of these criteria have to be met. So the highest percentage width within the past 200 bars is greater than 2%, and the highest within the past 5 bars is less than 5 or less than 1%. So we've had a shrinkage here in the short term. We'll see if this gets any results. I don't know that it really will, but we can check it out. And we might have to relax some of these criteria. It looks like it's found probably some of the same ones here. It looks like, yeah, that one's a buyout. Some of these I can't remember if they showed up in the prior scan. So this is a situation where it's saying volatility was higher back here and now it's lower. So this is more like what we want. Unfortunately, this is just a buyout type of situation, so it's not very interesting for our purposes. So this scan will probably work for what you need, but you'll have to manually filter out these buyouts. Or we can add one additional criteria that basically says we want the minimum width percent over the past, X number of bars to be a certain amount, so that we weed out some of the maybe we can weed out some of the buyouts in that way. We can say, okay, we want it to be less than a maximum amount in the past 5 bars or 10 bars, but we also want it to be greater than a minimum amount so that we, weed out stocks that have no volatility whatsoever. So let's add a couple more criteria here. Min width squeeze, and we'll set this to 0.5% perhaps. And I'll add that one up to this set of inputs so that we know that they go together. So we're saying the max has to be 1%, but the min has to be 0.5%. And so now we'll add an additional criteria here. And so we'll do that with another and keyword. And we'll say, now this time we're going to say the lowest width percent within the past. Actually, no, I think we will stay with the highest here. We're looking at the highest, and we're saying it has to be at least a certain width. Let's see here. Within bars squeeze, and it's greater than or equal to the min width for the squeeze. Okay, so now I don't know that this is going to solve all our problems, but on other days when there are actually more squeezes happening, this might find some more interesting criteria or more interesting search results. All right, so we've got AMYT and then FRXB. Now, one thing I can do here is adjust this a little bit to add in some additional scan results and see if we get anything more interesting than these that we've already looked at. Let that run for a minute. Okay, so we got a few more results. We'll see if any of them are more interesting or not. Okay, so this one has had a tile type of situation back here, and then is narrowed more recently. And so that's more like what we're looking for. And you can see down here the squeeze indicator is also confirming this as being kind of a squeeze. Let's see, TIG, PNTM. So this is another one where we've had volatility followed by quiet. Let's see, volatility followed by quiet. Not exactly what we're looking for, but similar at least. So this one allows you to get closer and closer to what you're really wanting. And on, days other than today, you might have more results come up that look more interesting for what you're going for. But you can kind of see from the results we're getting right now that this is at least matching kind of what we're looking for. You got this volatility, you've got your initial up move, volatility, then volatility disappears again, and perhaps you're getting ready for another move upward. So hopefully this helps. I will go ahead and share this code with the customer that I've been talking to on email that had requested this, and hopefully this will help any of you out there that are looking for a similar scan get something close to what you're looking for. All right, hopefully this helps, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks.